A Week in December by Sebastian Faulks. Once, upon Waterloo Bridge, Hassan began to walk south. Halfway across the river, he came to a halt with a strange, panicky feeling. There was no sign of Waterloo Station on the other side. He stopped and tried to regain his bearings. Behind him, he remembered a huge building with a country yard. He thought it was Somerset House. Ahead, he could see a cluster of equally large buildings in a brutal, modernist style, but he didn't know what they were. Theaters? Galleries? He looked in vain for the arched roof of a railway station. It wasn't there. He didn't know whether to go on or turn back. He had no way of orientating himself. Then he remembered how this had happened to him once before, when the GPO tower appeared to be in the wrong place. His mother had told him it was because he had been too long without food, and his blood sugar levels had crashed. This led to mental confusion and could be dangerous, Nazim had read, because he may faint and his brain could be damaged by lack of oxygen. She insisted that he see a doctor, who told him it was called hypoglycemia and could be cured at once by a simple bar of chocolate. It was true he did nothing today since a piece of toast with his parents at about 9. It was more than 12 hours ago. But how could you lose an international mainline station? How about low your blood sugar? How could it just disappear? Nazim found sweat in his upper lip despite the increasing cold of the night. His hands were both shaky now, though whether from fear or from hypoglycemia, he didn't know. Then he had an idea. His rucksack had a compass sewn into the top flap. It was part of the need. He knelt down on the pavement and flimsily undid it. If it showed north behind him and south ahead across the bridge, then surely all he needed to do was carry on. When he had finally obtained a reading, it told him he was heading southeast. Yet surely the teams ran west-east, so he could only be going north or south across it. The compass had simply made things worse. Someone was coming towards him on the footpath of the bridge, and Hassan decided to ask him the way. But as he came closer, it was clear that the man was plugged into loud music from his earpiece and couldn't be distracted. A woman was crossing the other way, but she was talking into a mobile phone and didn't see Hassan when he waved at her. Above the almost freezing Thames, Hassan stood, trying to persuade a passing Londoner, anyone to engage with him. A strange memory came to him in his lightheadedness. Waterloo Station was not at the foot of Waterloo Bridge. Perplexingly, it was at the foot of Westminster Bridge. No, it was irrational, impossible. And anyway, when he looked upstream, there was a rattling railway bridge. Hungerford was it, not the stately Westminster. Now, where now was Westminster Bridge? At the Council? Or maybe the Thames took a sudden turn and ran north-south at this point, in which case he should be going east? Oh God, they thought, oh God, I mustn't loosen it now. He muttered a prayer, then turned back for human help. 5 people he tried to stop on the bridge. 5 times he moved forward and tried to intercept these passing strangers. And 5 times he found them wrapped up in private music or talking into hands-free microphones concealed in their coats. They were talking to the air, or were listening to voices, talking back. They were no people. His was the only real voice on the bridge, but the only one to whom no one would listen. He couldn't give up now. He couldn't stop. What he had to do was somehow to make the world hear. Not the proofing nonsense of rapping rock, not the garbage of kefir phone calls, but the truth and beauty of another voice. The words of the unseen God spoken through the prophet almost 1,400 years ago. Those were the words that must reverberate in the ears of the people on the bridge and in the ears of all the world. At the moment, a bicycle with no license shot past him along the pavement, made him leap to one side. Helen stood back against the parapet of the bridge, feels his heart hammering his ribs in a huge, alarming rhythm. He had thought for a second he was going to die. His body wouldn't return to normal. He couldn't get a rhythm back. It was hard to breathe. Then he leaned forward on the stone parapet and put his head between his hands. Where was it? Where was the voice? The voice of God that the prophet had heard in the desert. This was the voice of the truth, the word of salvation. That was what he must kill for, what he must die for the disembodied voice only, and not for any other. He must go to the station, go to the hospital, and kill. This was so fantastically, so reasonably improbable. Hasn't hoisted himself onto the parapet so he could sit down into the icy darkness of the river below, the only surface white and black. He thought of his mother, Nazim's ear in his face, leaning over his bed, and of his father's dear worried eyes, with those little specks of pigment under them.